ambient monitoring data from Alaska and Hawaii. Our export to Google Earth has been updated, so you can now export the locations of surface meteorological stations, upper air meteorological stations, ambient monitoring sites, user source locations rather, MERP sources, and NEI sources. We've also added another option as far as the display of the NEI sources and their emission rates so that you can show just the emission source for a particular pollutant and its emission rate. And we'll also talk about now that we have added AERMET version 22112 to AERMOD Wizard. So first off, users of AERMOD Wizard can now download ambient monitoring data of all criteria pollutants that were recently updated by the EPA in June of 2022. And this includes total NOx, oxides of nitrogen as well. And what it means for people running AERMOD is that you can now generate background data for AERMOD for the years 2019 through 2021. So that most recent 3 complete years of data. Beyond that, as I said, we have now put in an option to be able to find and download ambient monitoring data, surface and upper air meteorological data, and a little more, which I'll mention in a second, from the states of Alaska and Hawaii. So in terms of just obtaining the new ambient monitoring data, here is a screenshot of a spot that includes eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina, and northwestern South Carolina. And what we have is a display of NO2 monitors. So there's one on the right side for Blount County, and there's another one down to the southeast of that for Greenville, in Greenville, South Carolina. So let's do this example. We're going to download NO2 data from the Blount County station. And there's the EPA ID for it, 47-009-0101. So the first thing you do is left click to select the station. So you put your cursor over the N and left click, and it puts the little circle with the hash marks in it over it rather. And now if you go to the drop down menu, select monitors, download monitoring data. And if you've used this before, this should look familiar. We see all the years for which you can download going back to 2000. And at the bottom there, you can see that we can select 2021 and 2022. And again, for 2022, that's just through May. There's a little note here just above the yellow text box. It says 2022 is incomplete, but you can still download up through May of this year. So you select the year or years, in this case 2021, 2022. Click download, and AERMOD Wizard goes out and finds the data and downloads it for you straight to your computer. As I said, we also have the ability to download data from Alaska and Hawaii now. And so in order to do that, what you do is go to the File drop-down. And there's some new options there sort of in the middle. The default is go to CONUS, or Continental United States, the lower 48, as they say. But if you want to grab data for Alaska, there's an option there that says go to Alaska. And also one that says you can go to Hawaii. So here's the example for Alaska. This shows all of the surface meteorological stations in the state. And as Alaska is a very large state, there's quite a few surface stations there. Similarly, in Hawaii, if you did File, go to Hawaii, you would see this screen. And again, the only thing we have toggled on here are the surface meteorological stations. Again, you could also display upper air stations and ambient monitors for whatever criteria pollutants you're interested in. And here's a little bonus that we did not mention up at the top. You can also display the NEI sources that are located in Alaska and Hawaii. So here's a similar plot as before, only now you'll notice that, whoops, now you'll notice that the NEI sources, this little button on the left is now selected, and you see all these blue icons and labels pop up. These are the National Emissions Inventory sources for the year 2017 that you now have in Alaska. And what happens in Alaska can also happen in Hawaii. So here are the NEI sources for Hawaii. The next thing to talk about is changes that we've made related to the Google Earth export, which is a very useful, very powerful tool. So if you've got AERMOD Wizard 1.08, you can export more than just a trajectory or a wind rose or a pollutant rose to Google Earth. Now, everything that you see on screen in the AERMOD Wizard, except for the Class 1 areas, those can be exported to Google Earth. So these include surface meteorological stations, upper air meteorological stations, ambient monitoring sites, user-defined or user-entered sources, MERP sources, and NEI sources. We don't, like I said, we don't have Class 1 areas in this yet, but this will be in the next version of AERMOD Wizard 1.09. So when this is all said and done, you'll be able to take anything that you see on screen and export it to Google Earth. So I've got an example here. This shows surface meteorological stations, NO2 monitors, and NEI sources. This is in Dallas County, Texas. And again, notice on the left-hand side, we've got surface selected, monitors selected, NEI. If I zoom in, what you'll see here is there's a drop down for Google Earth. And looking over here on the left-hand side, you see that it's displaying all the pollutant data for NO2 for ambient data. So over here, what you're going to see in a second is an NO2 station. But if you click Google Earth, there's your first option that says send to Google Earth. And what AERMOD Wizard wants to know is, okay, well, what all do you want to send to Google Earth? So you have this new box that's popped up. And here are the types of objects that you can send to Google Earth. Again, surface MET stations, upper air MET stations, ambient monitors, sources, MERP sources, NEI sources, or trajectories. So what you see now is, whoops, surface stations, monitors, and NEI sources all have none selected. And also have options for displayed and selected, except for NEI, because this is where you can tell AERMOD Wizard whether you want to send everything you see on screen or just some subset that you select. So again, you can send them all or just specific ones. So in this example, I'm going to select a single surface station and a single monitor. And I'm just going to send those to Google Earth. For this example, I'm not going to send the NEI sources or any of the other items there. So here I've zoomed in, and you see the hatching for Um, the S, Dallas Love Field, that's a surface meteorological station. And down south of it is something that says Dallas, Dallas County. That is the NO2 station, NO2 monitoring station. So to export both of those locations to Google Earth, you'll again left click the S at Love Field, the N at the monitor to select them. And when you select them, you have a little hatched circle that goes over it. And then you're going to click Google Earth, send to Google Earth, click just selected for surface and ambient monitoring station and click OK. So here again, we have selected a surface station, selected a monitor, and click OK. And here's what you get after you send it to Google Earth. So up here with the little light blue push pin is the location of the Dallas Love Field surface station. And down to the south is the light blue or darker blue push pin is the location of the NO2 station, this numbered 48-113-0069. So we were able to get both of those sent to Google Earth, and they are, as you can see, they're fairly close proximity to each other. So again, a nice update to AERMOD Wizard. So we talked about AERMOD Wizard, or excuse me, NEI data with AERMOD Wizard before. The new version has an option that allows you, the user, to redisplay these NEI objects, but you can change the label of the object to the reported emissions total for whatever pollutant you've selected. So here's an example. Over here on the left-hand side, you have a drop-down where you can select any of these uh, criteria pollutants, carbon monoxide, NO2, ozone, PM2.5, and so forth. So the first thing you want to do is decide what pollutant you're interested in displaying on screen. So in this example, we're going to be looking at SO2, again, in central Dallas, Texas, or downtown Dallas, Texas. So here is SO2 that we've selected. And if we click NEI sources, it will display those NEI sources within our view window here. And so here they all show up. Now the default when you display these, and you've seen this in previous version of AERMOD Wizard, is the icon and the label is the EIS identifier for that source. And that is the default setting. If you want to change that label for the NEI sources, we're going to click the options button on the left-hand side. And what pops up is the options screen, and under it you've got the options tab, which is more settings in terms of what you want to show: shape files, locations, states, counties, roads, the colors of the different class 1 areas. But what we wanted to do is go out to the far right where it says NEI sources and select that. And when we do, the option here has to do with the display label for the NEI. Now, as I mentioned, EIS ID is the default, but if I want to just show the emissions associated with that source, in this case for SO2, I'll go down to this last check down here, and it's going to show everything that has emissions greater than 0.01 tons per year. So I'll select that, click OK. And then again, this will filter the display so you only show the SO2 emitting sources along with their NEI SO2 total emissions. And so here's the same screen, and now you can see kind of quickly who some of the larger emitters are. So you have one over here that's almost 84 tons per year. There's another one to the southeast of it, 126 tons. But a lot of these are really small, 0.01 tons, 0.02 tons, and so forth. So if you wanted to kind of get a quick and dirty view of what these higher emitters, where these higher emitters might be, you can do that here. And I don't show you here, but again, if you do this, you can export just these to Google Earth as well. Again, go to the Google Earth and you can select the ones you want to send, or you can send them all. Same process applies. So finally, in all of this, the most recent version of AERMET, version 22.112, has been now included in AERMOD Wizard. And as with before, if you process through AERMET this way, it allows you to set up and run AERMET immediately after you download the raw surface and raw upper air meteorological data. And so to do that in AERMOD Wizard, you go to the MET dropdown and select Run AERMET. So here's the MET dropdown, and there is Run AERMET. Some of the things that have changed with this version of AERMET, and then some of the things that aren't in it, I'll talk about right now. So one of the things that happened with AERMET is that the path or file name length rather increased from 96 characters to 300 characters. So if you're doing a modeling study and you have your MET processing embedded several subfolders down, there was a chance that you could be running up against that 96 character limit, and it's happened to me. So I appreciate this very much, that it's now more than tripled in size. One of the big things that happened with this new version of AERMET is it's changed from 3 processing stages to 2 stages. In the first stage, not unlike the previous first stage, it unpacks and QAs the raw surface and raw upper air data. The second stage pulls in the, pardon me, 1-minute ASOS data that you processed in AERMINUTE. It calculates the various planetary boundary layer parameters, and finally writes the surface and profile AERMOD ready MET files. This version of AERMET no longer uses merge, and the TD3280 format for surface data is no longer supported. This is considered obsolete. However, it does include this new Integrated Global Radiosonde Archive, or IGRA, format for upper air data, so that you can process data with that format or with the original 6201 format or the FSL format. So some of the new AERMET options that are currently not supported by our AERMET GUI is you do not have the ability to process prognostic MET data, such as that that comes out of the mesoscale model interface, or MMIF. And the keyword processing that is prog, which is short for prognostic. The new version does not include wind velocity vector averaging for an on-site station which records more than 1 observation per hour, and does not have the ability to support multi-year air surface run. Currently, you've got to run each year individually in air surface to add to your processing. The good news is that these features will be added to a future version of our AERMET GUI. So all is going to be totally compatible with the AERMET 22.1.1.12 before too long. Excuse me. So that comes to the end of our presentation, and we'll now open it up to any questions that anybody has. So feel free to unmute yourself and ask your questions. Well, hearing no questions, I want to thank you all for tuning in to this, and hope you find it helpful. Hope you find these new features in AERMOD Wizard to be useful, something that you can use in your day-to-day work. Um, as always, if you have any questions about this presentation or any of our software, have questions or comments, here's my contact information, my email and phone number. And if there are no other comments or questions, thank you very, very much. And we will talk to you later. Have a great afternoon. Bye bye.